With how popular the Metal Gear franchise is, it is crazy to think about how long it took for us in North America to get a proper regional release of the original first game in the franchise. This didn't come until the 2006 release of Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence. Before this release, North American players' experience with the original Metal Gear game came from an NES port that had been altered in many ways, including the removal of the final confrontation with the titular mech. The NES version was also ported to DOS, which sucked, given that the original version was for MSX2 computers. While the NES version did provide a taste of the Metal Gear experience, having the real version properly translated and given nice controller support was amazing. It has been about 16 years since I last gave the original Metal Gear a proper playthrough, and revisiting it today brings me joy to see just how much of the franchise's DNA started all the way back in the original game. The fortress state of Outer Heaven is home to all soldiers who feel that they were abandoned or exploited by their home countries. These soldiers make Outer Heaven a force to be reckoned with, and intelligence reports indicate that Outer Heaven has gained nuclear capabilities. Special Forces Unit Foxhound dispatched their top operative, Gray Fox, to infiltrate and discover if Outer Heaven had gained access to nuclear weapons. All communication with Gray Fox ceased, with only a final message saying, "Metal Gear," being received. Foxhound's commander, Big Boss, decides to send in rookie operative Solid Snake to finish Gray Fox's mission and rescue him if possible. Operation Intrude N313 is now underway. Metal Gear is a top-down stealth exploration game that set the stage for everything that followed in the franchise. When Snake first infiltrates Outer Heaven, he is equipped only with his uniform, radio, fists, and a pack of cigarettes to aid him in his infiltration. Snake will acquire weapons and equipment as he explores Outer Heaven. Various keycards are also needed to open doors around the fortress. Enemies patrol each screen, and if Snake is seen in alert mode will trigger, causing enemies to pursue Snake until you dispatch them all. Firing unsilenced weapons around enemies will also cause an alert to trigger. Thankfully, you get a silencer fairly early in a playthrough. Various screens will even have cameras that can spot you if you cross their path. The only way to avoid them is to use the terrain if available, or the series signature cardboard box. The weapon pool in Metal Gear is fairly extensive, with handguns, machine guns, grenade launchers, remote missiles, mines, C4, and rockets all at your disposal by the end of the game. Each has a unique use, and none feel like they were tacked on. The silencer can be used with the handgun and machine gun, making them go-tos for clearing out patrolling enemies from range. Combat is okay, but precision isn't always easy. For best results, you will want to get squared up with an enemy, but you can also take them out with hits to their outer hitbox. You can take a good amount of hits before dying, and equipping armor helps reduce damage further. To heal, you can have rations equipped to do so automatically, or you can manually select them from your inventory. Punching is also a key aspect of this game, as it can be used to silently subdue enemies before acquiring the silencer, and it serves as a way to check for hidden passages behind area walls. Outer Heaven is a large interconnected environment, and it is fun to explore. It isn't so big that you get lost often, but there are enough floors and rooms where you will find yourself backtracking to get back on the right path. The aforementioned hidden walls throw you the occasional wrinkle, but otherwise it is pretty straightforward to recheck previously locked doors with your new key cards as you find them. Some unique traversal elements will come into play at times, like being captured or parachuting from a roof. To further trip up players are the inclusion of trap rooms that can include poisonous gas, rolling mashers, or pitfall traps. A gas mask removes the threat of gas, but the rolling mashers and pitfall traps are instant death if you manage to get caught by one. As you explore, you will find numerous prisoners held captive in various rooms of Outer Heaven. Freeing these prisoners will sometimes reward Snake with information to help with the mission. After freeing a set number of prisoners, Snake will also level up, giving him more health and the ability to hold more items and ammo. From time to time, Big Boss will radio Snake to give advice, updates, or clues on how to proceed with his mission. As the game progresses, Snake will make contact with members of a resistance force that stands in opposition to Outer Heaven. These conversations are essential to progression at various parts of a playthrough, but they can feel a bit obscure on how to properly activate, making them frustrating at times. But the information and exposition are again part of that Metal Gear DNA, and seeing it start from the first entry makes me smile. Boss fights are also a core part of the Metal Gear experience, and there are plenty to be found here. Utilizing remote missiles makes quick work of a few, but by the end of the game you will utilize your entire arsenal to bring them all down. The fight with Metal Gear is a particular highlight, requiring a specific sequence of hits to actually cause damage to it. The showdown against Big Boss is also quite iconic to me as a longtime fan of the franchise, even more so now that we have some retcons introduced with Metal Gear Solid 5. While most of the fights are easy overall, they still serve as a fun break from the standard gameplay loop. Metal Gear has a wonderful 8-bit aesthetic and audio presentation. The world is full of nice details and you can easily tell what everything is. Animations are decent enough, but nothing mind-blowing for the era. Bullets are a typical ball-like projectile found in many games of the era, but the effects of other weapons are a neat addition to the overall feel of the game. Character portraits during radio calls are a great touch, and again are the root of what would come in the later entries of the franchise. The soundtrack is nice enough, and though you hear many of the themes on repeat, they never got annoying to me over my journey. Alert phase music is punchy, while your typical sneaking theme gives a nice sense of unease. The boss fight theme is fun to me, and I like the accompanying hit effects. While it might not hit the levels of iconic like other games in the series, it is memorable. Despite its age, Metal Gear is still a ton of fun to experience and provides an excellent sense of exploration to proceed through the game. Unfortunately, at times, the progression does feel a bit convoluted, with all the hidden walls and mandatory radio call trigger points not always being clear. The later game's flying enemies are also quite obnoxious, as they will quickly fly out of your range while being able to hit you with ease. As the game is old and likely due to hardware limitations, radio calls will trigger every time you enter certain rooms to relay the same conversation you had in it the first time, even after finishing that particular area. Enemy sightlines are also quite a joke because of the same reasons, making stealth in many sections quite trivial. I am willing to forgive much of this due to the age of the game, but it can still be a minor annoyance. Probably the worst thing about each of the North American releases of the MSX2 Metal Gear ports is their frame rate. The original game ran at 60 FPS, but the PS2 release and future releases ran at 30 FPS. Somehow the GOG release only manages a 15 FPS presentation. Ranks are one of the main draws to replaying the original Metal Gear after experiencing it for the first time. Like later games in the series, you can earn a rank based on how you play. Getting the best rank is out of the question for me, but it is a great inclusion. A boss rush mode is also present in the Master Collection release, which is a ton of fun to play through. The MSX2 release for Japan and Europe is the original release of the game that features higher frame rates compared to later iterations. The translation for Europe is pretty mediocre, like most things at the time. A GameCube release of the game came as part of a limited edition of Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes in 2004, but was sadly available to Japan only. The MSX2 version would again see its first official North American release, with Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence bringing with it a new translation and new controls, along with other various changes. This version would see another release as part of the Metal Gear Solid HD collection on Xbox 360 and PS3. A Wii Virtual Console release of the game also happened in Japan. Funny enough, this version of Metal Gear also saw a mobile phone release, which I happened to pick up once upon a time on an old Verizon flip phone. The Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 contains the MSX2 version of Metal Gear along with the altered NES release. Again, the NES, DOS, and Commodore 64 releases are all altered versions of the game. Playing through the original Metal Gear title was a ton of fun for me despite some of its technical limitations. If you have only played later games in the franchise and go back to the original, it is a blast to see how much of the series' DNA started right from the beginning. Exploration is enjoyable and the story is pretty decent. With Metal Gear Solid 5 changing some of the impact of the game, it was nice to finally play through it again with the added perspectives. I hope one day we could get a full remake of this title that could further flesh out and connect it to other entries in the series. Until then, if you love classic games, Metal Gear is a great one to play. So those are just my thoughts on the original MSX2 version of Metal Gear. Really love this franchise, so I'm super glad that the original game is so readily available to all of us now thanks to the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection. I do wish that they had gone the extra mile and actually reported the game, so that way we could have had the true 60 FPS experience, but it is what it is. The game is still fun to play, and again, if you like classic games, you like Metal Gear, this is a great one to dive into. It's not going to take you too long to get through it, and it's just really cool to see how much of the series DNA started here. Again, revisiting it, just, it's been a lot of fun for me. Well, anyway, thanks for watching to the end. Really appreciate it. Just the usual favors, thumbs up, thumbs down, depending on how much you like this one. Sub button, notification bell, so you can see when new videos go live. And if you'd like to help support us, hit that join button here on YouTube or the Patreon link in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Thank you to all of our current backers. You're champs, couldn't do it without you. But until next time, my wonderful internet peeps, you all stay awesome, keep on gaming, and we'll see you all back next video.